There are a lot of Americans, I think, who still believe the bank should be on the naughty step, but Jamie Dimon came out swinging on their fourth quarter earnings, basically saying the banks are still under assault from the regulators and from analysts, and those in particular who've said that JP Morgan should be broken up and some of the banks, the big banks, should still be split into smaller divisions.
Since those long-ago days of the financial crisis, American banks have been operating with the equivalent of a 10,000-pound boulder on their heads. New security, new scrutiny, regulations designed to ensure the financial collapse doesn't happen again at their hands. The question then is how much of their complaining is legit and how much of it is corporate whining? Welcome back to Midpoint for this edition of Bulls, Bears, and Bucks from the Society to Advance Financial Education. Steve Beaman joins us once again. How you doing, Steve?
Well, good afternoon, Ed.
Good afternoon,
I had
sir.
to wipe that tear from my eye listening to Jamie's problems.
Jamie Dimon, and he used a lot of F-bombs and a couple of colorful language pieces as well in there, where he said banks are under assault. In the old days, you deal with one regulator when you had an issue. Now it's 5 or 6. You should all ask, here's my favorite part, you should all ask the question about how American that is, how fair it is. Let me stop for a second, because, Steve, there are people who are going to say, Mr. Dimon, you and your people did it. You're the cause why. So now give us some real factors, Steve.
Well, it is hard to feel too sorry for him. Let's go back to the late 1990s when the government of the United States, at the behest of the major brokers and banks, took away the Glass-Steagall Act that separated investment banks from private banks. That gave these people like Jamie Dimon license to steal, and they took advantage of it throughout the early 2000s. For them then to come back now and say, oh, we're being overregulated, well, he made his bed, let him lie in it.
So let's make that point again. This is not as if they're being punished for nothing they did. This is still the regulations, and these are still the regulations that are in place to make sure we don't hit another crash, another financial crisis. But, Steve, in your opinion, with all the different rules, regulations, things that have happened since then, do you really think that same kind of crash could happen again?
Oh, I absolutely do. They've Band-Aided over things. They haven't really fixed the problem. What's a little disingenuous about Mr. Dimon is they just got done paying, what was it, $1 billion fee on some activities they'd done that were not exactly on the up and up. So for him to complain that regulation is costing his shareholders money, they ought to look at him and ask his business practices.
1.1 billion. I think it's 900 million after taxes.
Yeah.
All right. We'll leave Mr. Dimon here for a moment. Let's cruise through a couple of other things here. The president will on Friday announce some new rules to Cuba on trade and travel, telecommunications, agricultural, construction equipment. But because Republicans are still sitting here looking to fight this, some people are still pulling back a little bit. Do you really see any sort of a rush for companies now, but more or less a hands-off, let's wait and see approach as this thing grows?
I think you've got some, like Caterpillar will probably make aggressive moves to move in there. Archer Daniels Midland with some of the agricultural products. But generally speaking, the regulatory cost of getting anything done down there will be extraordinary. So I think there'll be very much a wait and see. And in Washington, politically, the Republicans are going to have to accept that this is a big business opportunity. And they may not like the Cuban government, which most of us don't. But that's not going to stop this from happening. And the business opportunity is in the billions and billions of dollars.
Steve, is that the reality of this? That sooner or later, the Republicans are going to realize that there may be American jobs that are going to be at stake here. There's money coming into America, and that despite how much they may abhor what's happening here, they may kind of smile and let it go by the board.
Well, farmers are going to love this. We're going to ship an awful lot of wheat into Cuba that we've never been able to do. The other thing, geopolitically, if we open up better relations with Cuba, who knows? It may be on the off chance that we can build a better relationship. I have a hard time believing that. But if we do, that geopolitically could serve us well down the road.
All right. Target is pulling out of Canada. I guess it didn't quite work in the Great White North, did it?
No, it did not. They had real problems with their supply chain. If we look at Walmart as the great American retailer success story, the magic they had was a distribution system that allowed them to reduce cost. Target couldn't get it right, and so they ended up with stores, I think 133 of them in Canada, that had frequently empty shelves. But that's going to cost about 18,000 Canadian jobs, so there's not a lot of celebration going on about that.
20 seconds. Should we shed any tears for Caesars with their operating unit filing for bankruptcy?
A little like Evil Knievel, right? They crashed and burned. But no, I think people looking to go to Caesars can rest assured it'd be unprecedented for this to hurt the visitors to Caesars. So I think this is just a corporate thing they'll have to deal with. It won't affect the visitors.
Rest assured, they will still be looking to take your money, and the dealers will still be open for business. From the Society to Advance Financial Education, he and I will not be jumping the Snake River Canyon. There's an inside joke. Steve Beaman joins us again. Steve, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, short break, and we're back with money of a different kind, the black gold kind of currency, and how military might is changing at this very moment, even as you use fewer dollars to fill your gas tank. That and more coming up right here on Midpoint, where we question everything.